Let's talk about money. We all understand money is a medium of exchange. We get it by working or producing something, and we spend it on the stuff we want. Exchange is the very fabric of civilization. As soon as tribes started forming, people began working together, specialization developed. The guy making clothes would be the biggest customer for skins, and he would supply the whole tribe with his clothes. The social media consultant would need things from everybody and give back paintings on the walls of the cave. They needed money, but all they had was beads, teeth, shells, and feathers. They made it work. Let's let these cavemen suffer with the barter and the beads, and fast forward about 30,000 years to 600 BC. King Alyattes of Lydia, who was a king who didn't conquer anybody, but he issued the first standard coinage. It was made of electrum, an alloy of gold and silver, and it became the first international medium of exchange. I wanted to show you a picture of Alyattes, but I couldn't find any, so you have to look at me. His son Croesus was a different story. Lots of pictures of him. Why is he famous? His daddy ruled for 57 years, and because of the coinage, by the time Croesus took over, the Lydians were filthy, stinking rich. And they had better social media. Maybe you've heard the saying, rich as Croesus? Once the tech was out of the bag, everybody got on board. During the next 100 years, the Greeks, Persians, Indians, and Chinese all had their own coinage. When the Roman Empire came along, they conquered the world with their centurions, but more importantly with their coins. Europe, Asia, and Africa were all doing business with Roman coins. What about paper money? The Chinese invented it around 800 AD, and it was sort of popular because the banknotes could be redeemed for metal money. In 1023, the Song dynasty decreed that their banknotes would be the only money accepted. However, they did allow people to redeem their banknotes for metal coins, salt, or liquor. Now that is some forward thinking. In the US, they passed a law to mint government coins in 1792. In 1861, official US paper money was created. In between, over 7,000 banks issued their own banknotes. Think of the counterfeiting opportunities there. Think of the bank runs and failures. Yeek. Even though the government was desperate to finance the Civil War with the notes, they did back the paper money with gold. In the teeth of the Depression, with world economies in chaos, the US went off the gold standard. One of the difficult features of currency that is redeemable for gold is that foreign countries will want to resolve trade deficits with gold, which would deplete a country's treasury and devalue the currency. Hey, there's no more gold to back the money. Going off the gold standard resulted in inflation, but the dollar had been deflated by the Depression, so it wasn't that big a deal at the time. Most of the other world currencies had gone off the gold standard by then, and there was a lot of inflation going around. The Bretton Woods Conference of 1944 brought about the formation of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, the World Bank, and the US going back on the gold standard, and all the other countries having their currencies pegged to the dollar, which put them all back on the gold standard as well. That seemed like a good idea at the time, until 1971, when a fellow named Nixon decided to take the US and the rest of the world with it off the gold standard. He really had no choice because too many countries wanted to trade their dollars for gold and there wasn't enough to go around. Harry Dexter White was the American delegate who pushed using the dollar as the standard for world currency. John Maynard Keynes, the British delegate and one of the greatest economic minds of the 20th century, had proposed an international currency he called Bancor. This wasn't money that people could use, it was a means of resolving deficits and value differences among world currencies that would be administered by the IMF. White was pressing for increased American control of the world's economies, whereas Keynes was taking a long-term approach to improve all the world's economies. Both plans would be able to stabilize the world economy. The Bancor concept had the advantage that it wouldn't be derailed 27 years later by some guy who had no idea the ramifications of his actions. But in 1944, the Americans were calling all the shots. So, the bottom line on money. It started out as a representation of value, beads and feathers. It became something of actual value, metal coinage. It then became paper backed by something of value, the gold standard. And now it's paper backed by debt. That paper and its debt are controlled by governments all in competition with their own agendas for the money's value and its quantity. In this world, that's pretty scary. Enter cryptocurrency. It's created and stored using software on the internet. Its creation is an investment of energy which backs its value. Cryptocurrencies are not controlled by any government yet, although there will be some that are. It is much harder to lose, steal, destroy, or counterfeit than paper money. Because there are numerous currencies with a variety of attributes, it can be a volatile investment or a stable medium of exchange. It can be the answer that Keynes was looking for back in 1944. Countries with their own currencies will always have trade deficits, and those deficits will cause currency fluctuations, which will cause inflation. In the US, we go crazy over inflation that's over 3%, but that's one of the lowest rates in the world. Here's a chart that shows some of the highest, although there are more than 30 countries right now that are over 10%. Can you imagine what that would be like, having 300 or 100% inflation, or even 10%? Yeah, talk about complaining about the grocery prices. Cryptocurrency offers a way to transcend national economies and create a world where inflation can be controlled and we can finally get off the roller coaster. Yeah, that's what I want.